Queen Camilla has had to cancel her royal engagements this week. For more, reporter Michelle Rimmer joins us now from London.
Camilla will never be a true queen. Those were the chilling words reportedly spoken by Princess Anne inside the walls of Raymill House, igniting a confrontation that has shaken the monarchy to its core. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for watching. Before we dive deeper into this breaking royal drama, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the untold truths and behind-the-scenes revelations shaking Buckingham Palace. Tonight, the focus is not on ceremony, not on tradition, but on scandal. Queen Camilla has left the United Kingdom aboard her private jet after the shocking discovery of a missing royal heirloom inside her private estate in Wiltshire. What began as a discreet charity gathering quickly transformed into a thunderclap of suspicion and betrayal. According to palace insiders, a servant at Raymill House stumbled upon an object that should never have been there, a priceless heirloom once belonging to the late Queen Elizabeth II. The item's sudden reappearance in Camilla's home has set off a firestorm of questions. Was this a coincidence, or the tip of a much larger scandal hidden behind gilded walls? Princess Anne wasted no time. Known for her blunt honesty and fierce loyalty to royal tradition, she confronted Camilla directly. Witnesses say Anne's accusation was as sharp as a blade: theft. Her words carried the weight of decades of rivalry, bitterness, and suspicion. Camilla will never be a true queen, she declared, tearing open old wounds that the monarchy had worked hard to conceal. But Anne was not alone. Prince William soon arrived at Raymill House, and his expression was described as grave. For the first time, the heir to the throne stood silently between his aunt and his stepmother, watching as accusations turned into open conflict. By William's side was Catherine, Princess of Wales, her composure unshaken but her presence impossible to ignore. Observers believe their appearance together signaled more than just family duty. It was a calculated show of unity. Inside sources confirm that King Charles appeared shaken, caught between his wife and his sister. Within hours, a secret family meeting was convened behind closed doors. Details of the conversation remain hidden, but one decision was clear: a thorough search of Raymill House was ordered. Apart from the single heirloom, no other missing treasures were found. Yet the damage was already done. The discovery sparked more than just curiosity. It reopened the question of Camilla's place within the monarchy. Ever since her relationship with Charles surfaced during his marriage to Diana, Camilla has carried the burden of being seen as the other woman. Despite years of charity work and a carefully managed public rehabilitation, critics argue she has never truly won the trust of the public or of the royal family itself. Analysts suggest this latest scandal is not about one missing heirloom, but about symbolism. To many, the fact that an artifact belonging to Elizabeth II was found inside Camilla's sanctuary is proof of a deeper betrayal. It touches a raw nerve. The perception that Camilla has taken what was never hers: titles, trust, and now perhaps the crown itself. Royal watchers also point out that Princess Anne's fury cannot be understood without history. Long before Camilla became queen, there was Andrew Parker Bowles. He dated Anne before marrying Camilla, leaving the princess with a lasting sense of intrusion. When Camilla later stepped into Charles's life, despite his marriage to Diana, Anne's disapproval hardened into lasting hostility. That hostility erupted again at Raymill, making the heirloom discovery more explosive than any newspaper headline could capture. For William and Catherine, the scandal is both a test and an opportunity. Analysts note that their silent appearance together at Raymill positioned them as protectors of the monarchy's future. William did not need to speak. His presence, flanked by Kate's quiet strength, was enough to remind the public of Diana's legacy. This moment may mark the start of a generational shift, where the younger royals step forward as the true guardians of tradition. And so, this unfolding royal crisis leaves us with questions that cut deeper than stolen property. Why was the heirloom at Raymill House? How long had it been hidden there? And why did Camilla choose to leave the country instead of facing the storm head-on? This is only the beginning of the unraveling. Stay tuned, because in the next part we reveal the secret details of the family meeting and the whispered conversations that may decide the fate of Queen Camilla's reign. But for now, one thing is clear. The monarchy is once again under siege, and this time, the storm is coming from within. The crown cannot withstand another scandal. Those chilling words, according to palace insiders, were spoken inside a closed-door meeting at Buckingham Palace, just hours after the Raymill discovery. The stakes could not be higher. With Queen Camilla accused, with Princess Anne demanding accountability, and with Prince William and Catherine quietly moving into the spotlight, the monarchy now stands on the edge of another public reckoning. The secret family meeting convened in London was described as tense, emotional, and unprecedented. According to multiple royal observers, it brought together the key players: King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince William, and Catherine. Queen Camilla herself was notably absent, her sudden flight leaving Charles to answer questions on her behalf. One source familiar with the meeting has claimed that William was the first to break the silence. His tone was calm but firm, insisting that the integrity of the monarchy must outweigh personal loyalties. Catherine reportedly supported his stance, reminding the room that the public's trust is already fragile. The suggestion, insiders say, was clear. Camilla's position as queen could no longer be taken for granted. Charles, visibly shaken, was said to have defended his wife. He argued that the discovery at Raymill was a mistake, an unfortunate coincidence blown out of proportion by old grudges. But his defense only deepened the divide. Anne, never one to soften her words, declared that the late Queen Elizabeth's wishes had been ignored when Charles elevated Camilla from queen consort to queen. The heirloom found in Raymill, Anne insisted, was the proof of what she had long believed, that Camilla takes what was never hers. Observers described the clash as explosive, an open battle between tradition and modern compromise. Anne's voice thundered with the authority of history. William's measured intervention added the weight of the future, and Charles, torn between love and duty, appeared increasingly cornered. Analysts say the symbolism could not be clearer. This was not just a family disagreement, it was a thunderclap crisis that struck at the heart of monarchy's survival. For decades, the institution has weathered storms, abdications, divorces, even tragedies like Diana's death. But what makes this moment different, experts argue, is that the challenge is coming from inside, not outside. And in the middle of it, all stands William and Catherine. Their presence at the meeting was more than symbolic. According to those close to the palace, the Prince and Princess of Wales made it clear they were ready to step forward as stabilizing figures. Catherine, whose public image is one of poise and dependability, reportedly reminded Charles that the people see her as the future queen they can trust. Her words, insiders believe, landed with devastating impact when contrasted with Camilla's dramatic escape abroad. A second revelation emerged from the meeting. William has allegedly pushed for a transparent review of how royal heirlooms are handled and stored. This proposal, while technical on the surface, carries political weight. Experts note that by demanding accountability in such a direct way, William positioned himself not as a passive heir, but as an active reformer. For many, this was the clearest signal yet that he and Catherine are preparing to redefine the monarchy in their image. Meanwhile, King Charles remains in a precarious position. To his critics, his decision to style Camilla as queen is now unraveling into a colossal mistake. According to one royal historian, Charles gambled with public trust to secure Camilla's standing. Now that trust is collapsing, and with it, his credibility. For Princess Anne, the meeting was vindication. She has long warned that Camilla's presence threatened the monarchy's moral authority. With every scandal, Anne's warnings have seemed more like prophecy. And now, with Camilla absent and public outrage growing, Anne's blunt assessment, "She will never be a true queen," is echoing louder than ever. The larger question remains: how will the public respond? Already, commentators across Britain are drawing sharp comparisons. For supporters of Princess Diana, the scandal feels like long overdue justice. Diana's famous words, "There were 3 of us in this marriage," are being replayed across media outlets, reinforcing the image of Camilla as an intruder. For others, however, the crisis is being portrayed as a family feud magnified by history, one that risks overshadowing Charles's reign. But no matter which side people take, one truth cannot be denied. The monarchy's fractures are once again exposed for the world to see. The heirloom at Raymill was not just an object. It became a symbol, a reminder of betrayal, of rivalry, of the shadows of Diana and Elizabeth that still loom over the House of Windsor. By the end of the meeting, no formal resolution was announced. Charles reportedly pleaded for unity, asking his family to support him publicly. Yet the silence that followed spoke volumes. William and Catherine left Buckingham with their heads held high, their dignity intact. Anne, stone-faced, departed without a word. Charles remained behind, alone, caught in a storm of his own making. As cameras captured the royal motorcades leaving the palace, speculation erupted. Was this the beginning of a transition, where William and Catherine stepped forward as the de facto leaders of the monarchy? Or was it merely another temporary storm that Charles hopes to outlast? What is certain is that Queen Camilla's absence has created a vacuum, and in that vacuum, others are rising. Anne with her defiance, William and Kate with their steady presence. Even the memory of Diana, whose ghost continues to shape public opinion more powerfully than Camilla's decades of charity work ever could. With a family divided, a crown under siege, and a queen in exile. But the story is only gaining momentum. In the next, we will examine how the media, the public, and international observers are reacting to Camilla's flight, and why some are calling this the monarchy's greatest crisis since Diana's death. The morning after Camilla's sudden departure, Britain woke up to headlines that carried the weight of history. "Queen in exile," screamed one front page. "The other woman runs again," declared another, invoking Diana's haunting words. Across television networks, commentators dissected every frame of footage. The empty runway, the shuttered gates of Raymill House, and the motorcades leaving Buckingham without a queen at the king's side. Public reaction was immediate and polarized. Outside the palace, small crowds gathered, some waving banners calling for Camilla's removal, others demanding stability. For Diana's supporters, the scandal was vindication. Social media lit up with old clips of her panorama interview, the words, "3 in this marriage" trending worldwide once again. To them, Camilla's flight was proof that she had never truly belonged on the throne. Yet not everyone agreed. Some voices within Britain's press reminded audiences that Camilla had spent years quietly supporting Charles, engaging in charitable causes, and avoiding the spotlight. They argued that the heirloom discovery could have been nothing more than a misunderstanding, a relic misplaced rather than stolen. But those voices were quickly drowned out by a storm of criticism that spread far beyond the United Kingdom. Internationally, the story exploded. In America, networks framed the scandal through the lens of Diana's legacy, portraying William and Catherine as the true symbols of modern royalty. In Europe, newspapers drew comparisons to abdications and royal crises of the past, warning that the British monarchy was sliding into instability. Even in Commonwealth nations, debates flared. In Canada and Australia, politicians and pundits questioned why taxpayers should continue to fund an institution gripped by personal scandals. For many observers, the most striking detail was the symbolism of Raymill House. Analysts pointed out that Camilla had purchased the property long before marrying Charles, using it as her sanctuary away from royal duties. To find an heirloom of Queen Elizabeth II hidden within those private walls was seen as a betrayal not just of protocol, but of trust. The narrative wrote itself. Camilla's private refuge had become the scene of her public undoing. Meanwhile, images of William and Catherine began dominating the media cycle. Their dignified appearance at the family meeting, their calm departure from Buckingham, and Catherine's subtle but steady composure created a contrast that commentators could not ignore. One headline in The Times read simply, "The future arrives." To many, the Prince and Princess of Wales had become the monarchy's strongest defence against collapse. King Charles, however, did not enjoy the same reception. Editorials across Britain questioned his judgment in elevating Camilla from consort to queen. "A king's folly," one columnist wrote, arguing that Charles's insistence on rewriting tradition to accommodate his wife had backfired spectacularly. Polls taken in the days following the scandal showed a sharp decline in public confidence, not only in Camilla, but in Charles himself. Leaked whispers from palace staff suggested that Camilla's absence had left the king increasingly isolated. Some aides reportedly described him as distraught and indecisive, pacing the halls and avoiding public appearances. In contrast, William and Catherine were said to be holding private meetings with advisors, preparing for a potential increase in public duties. To critics, the optics were damning, the king retreating into silence, while his son and daughter-in-law stepped forward as the steady hands of the monarchy. Analysts note that the scandal has revived a dangerous dynamic, the contrast between Diana and Camilla. Diana's image, immortalized as both victim and icon, continues to command global sympathy. Every reminder of her suffering, every clip, every quote, casts Camilla as the antagonist in a narrative she can never escape. With the Heirloom scandal, the script has been rewritten yet again. Diana as the wronged, Camilla as the taker, and William and Kate as the rightful heirs to her legacy. The public response reached a fever pitch when protesters unfurled banners outside Buckingham declaring, "Justice for Diana, future for William." Images of the demonstration were broadcast worldwide, further cementing the idea that the monarchy's survival now depended not on Charles and Camilla, but on William and Catherine. Commentators across the Atlantic were even more direct. One American network asked bluntly, "Is this the end for Queen Camilla?" While an Australian talk show suggested that Charles should step aside entirely in favour of his son. Though such ideas remain speculative, the fact they are being aired publicly shows just how deeply Camilla's absence has shaken the institution's image. For Princess Anne, the media storm brought validation. Her stark words, "She will never be a true queen," were replayed across broadcasts, quoted in headlines, and echoed in opinion pieces. Anne, once considered a background figure, suddenly appeared as the voice of conscience, the one royal who had spoken what many dared not say. And yet, the crisis is far from over. Camilla's flight raises practical as well as symbolic questions. Will she return? If so, how can she face her critics without reigniting the firestorm? And if she does not return, what does that mean for Charles's reign and for the monarchy's fragile unity? By the end of the week, palace officials remained silent, issuing only a brief statement that the king was continuing with his duties. But the absence of his queen was impossible to disguise. Every public appearance, every photograph, every ceremony now carried the same unspoken message: something is broken at the heart of the crown. A nation divided, a world watching, and a monarchy once again under siege. In the next part, we will turn back the clock to trace the roots of this rivalry, how the triangle of Charles, Diana, and Camilla planted the seeds of betrayal that still haunt the House of Windsor today. To understand why the Raymill scandal has detonated with such force, one must look back at the decades of rivalry, suspicion, and betrayal that shaped the current crisis. This is not simply a story about a misplaced heirloom. It is a story about old wounds that never healed, wounds that stretch back to the very heart of Diana's tragedy and Camilla's ascent. In the early 1970s, Charles and Camilla first crossed paths. Their bond was immediate, their affection undeniable, but royal tradition dictated otherwise. Charles, pressured by family expectations, pursued other matches, while Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles. That decision altered more than just their lives. It set the stage for decades of tension inside the royal family. What few realise is that before marrying Camilla, Andrew Parker Bowles had a romance with Princess Anne. Though it did not end in marriage, their bond was strong enough to linger as friendship. When Camilla later became Andrew's wife, Anne reportedly viewed her as someone intruding on her personal sphere. This private resentment, long buried, resurfaced with new intensity when Camilla reappeared at Charles's side years later. By 1981, Charles had married Lady Diana Spencer, and the world celebrated what seemed like a fairy tale. Yet behind palace walls, reality told a different story. Charles and Camilla never severed their connection. Their relationship continued, discreet at first, then increasingly impossible to hide. For Diana, the betrayal was devastating. Her pain became public knowledge in 1992, when Andrew Morton's biography revealed her inner struggles, her isolation, and her awareness of Charles's closeness with Camilla. Tapes of Diana's private conversations confirmed what many suspected. Camilla had always been a looming presence in her marriage. The scandal reached its peak in 1995 during Diana's unforgettable BBC Panorama interview. With calm but piercing honesty, she uttered the words that would define the narrative forever. "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." That single sentence cemented Diana as the wronged heroine and branded Camilla as the other woman. For Anne, the interview was more than confirmation of Diana's suffering. It was validation of her own mistrust. To her, Camilla was not only a rival in her personal past, but also a destabilizing force within the monarchy. That perception hardened into a belief that Camilla would never be accepted as a true queen. And then came the humiliation of the so-called Camillagate tapes, secretly recorded conversations between Charles and Camilla leaked to the press in the early 1990 seconds. The intimate remarks, mocked and replayed endlessly, did catastrophic damage to Charles's image and solidified Camilla's role as a scandalous figure. For Diana's supporters, it was the ultimate proof of betrayal. For the monarchy, it was a crisis of credibility. The tragic death of Princess Diana in 1997 intensified the divide. While the public mourned the people's princess, Camilla stayed hidden from view, her very name sparking outrage. For years, she remained in the shadows, reintroduced only slowly through carefully staged charity work and quiet appearances. By the time Queen Elizabeth II finally gave her blessing for Camilla to be styled as Queen Consort, it seemed that rehabilitation had succeeded. Charles's coronation then pushed further, styling Camilla simply as Queen, a decision that defied the late Queen's wishes and reignited old anger within the family. Anne, according to insiders, was among the most vocal opponents, arguing that Elizabeth's intentions had been undermined. The coronation, meant to be a moment of unity, instead exposed the cracks. For many, the sight of Camilla crowned beside Charles felt like the legitimization of betrayal. Memories of Diana flooded back, and whispers inside the palace grew louder. Anne's hostility, long considered personal, began to resonate as a defense of tradition. This is the context in which the Raymill scandal erupted. To critics, the discovery of Elizabeth's heirloom inside Camilla's private estate was not an isolated accident. It was the symbolic culmination of a lifetime of taking. From Anne's first suspicion to Diana's heartbreak, from Charles's humiliation to the coronation controversy, every chapter has reinforced the same narrative. Camilla stepping into roles, spaces, and titles that were never meant to be hers. Royal historians argue that once a figure within the monarchy is branded, whether as victim, hero, or villain, the role is nearly impossible to escape. Diana became the eternal victim, Charles the flawed king, and Camilla the usurper. The heirloom scandal, coupled with her flight from the country, has only deepened those roles in the public's imagination. By tracing the past, one sees why the present feels inevitable. The clash at Raymill, Anne's thunderous accusation, William and Catherine's rising prominence, all of it flows from wounds that were never closed. And now, those wounds have burst open at the worst possible time, threatening not just reputations but the monarchy itself. The echoes of Diana's voice, the shadow of Anne's rivalry, the humiliation of leaked tapes, and the controversy of the coronation all converge into the storm that now surrounds Queen Camilla. We will examine how King Charles himself is weathering this crisis, and why his reign may be defined not by his actions as monarch, but by his decision to elevate the woman who has once again brought the crown to the brink. Inside Buckingham Palace, the weight of history now falls squarely on King Charles's shoulders. His reign, only recently established with pomp and ceremony, is already overshadowed by crisis, and at the center of that storm is the decision he made. The decision to elevate Camilla not merely as queen consort, but as queen. For Charles, the gamble was personal. To legitimize Camilla was to secure the love of his life at his side, finally free from shadows and whispers. But critics now say it was a fatal miscalculation. In the wake of the Raymill scandal and Camilla's abrupt departure, that choice looks less like loyalty and more like recklessness. According to palace aides, Charles has become increasingly withdrawn. Some describe him as visibly shaken, pacing the halls, consumed by self-doubt. Others suggest he has grown defensive, clinging to the belief that Camilla's scandal will pass, just as earlier storms eventually did. But unlike those earlier storms, this one threatens the very legitimacy of his reign. Public opinion has turned harsh. Newspapers that once praised Charles for modernizing the monarchy now question his judgment. Editorials ask whether he sacrificed the crown's moral authority to satisfy his own heart. Polls show a steep decline in confidence, not only in Camilla, but in the king himself. It is not just about her anymore, one historian told the BBC. It is about him, about his ability to lead a monarchy that demands dignity and restraint. Against this backdrop, William and Catherine's profile has only grown. Every appearance of the Prince and Princess of Wales is now scrutinized, and every image seems to reinforce a single narrative. They are the steady hands guiding the monarchy forward, while Charles falters. Their calm, their composure, their quiet dignity stand in sharp contrast to Camilla's flight and Charles's unease. At a recent public engagement, William and Kate were greeted with cheers and applause. Cameras captured Catherine in a deep blue coat, smiling softly as she shook hands with schoolchildren. Commentators noted how natural she looked, how the crowd responded with warmth rather than skepticism. They represent stability, one royal watcher remarked. They embody what people want the monarchy to be: reliable, respectful, and relatable. Leaked reports suggest that William has begun taking on more responsibility behind the scenes, engaging in high-level discussions with advisors, and even pressing for reforms in how royal assets and heirlooms are catalogued. Some insiders go further, suggesting that William is quietly preparing for a larger role, one that may arrive sooner than expected if public pressure on Charles intensifies. For Charles, this presents a painful paradox. He waited longer than any heir in British history to ascend the throne. Yet now, only months into his reign, speculation about a premature transition is gaining momentum. Commentators in the Commonwealth openly discuss whether the crown should bypass Charles entirely in favour of William. While such talk remains unofficial, the fact that it is happening at all underscores the fragility of Charles's position. Princess Anne, meanwhile, has doubled down. Her words at Raymill, "She will never be a true queen," have taken on prophetic weight. Media outlets replay them as if they were a verdict, not just an accusation. Anne, the no-nonsense royal who has always prized duty over drama, is now seen as the voice of tradition. Her stance only sharpens the contrast between Charles's embattled reign and the rising prominence of the next generation. One striking detail emerged from insiders. During the family meeting, Anne allegedly warned Charles that his insistence on Camilla had placed the monarchy itself at risk. "The crown survives because of respect," she is reported to have said. "And once respect is lost, it cannot be recovered." These words, if true, cut to the heart of the crisis. Public sentiment reflects this very tension. To Diana's supporters, Camilla represents betrayal, while Charles's defense of her feels like complicity. To moderates, the king seems distracted and indecisive, overshadowed by personal loyalty when national duty is required. And to reformists, the scandal is yet another reason to question whether the monarchy should continue at all. All of this leaves William and Catherine in an extraordinary position. Though they have not spoken publicly about the scandal, their silence has been interpreted as strength. They are not defending Camilla. They are not attacking her either. Instead, they project composure, letting public opinion move naturally in their favor. Every step they take is amplified by the shadows of Diana and Elizabeth, whose legacies now rest visibly on their shoulders. For Charles, the image is painful. His wife in exile, his sister defiant, his son and daughter-in-law stepping into the role of stability. It is a tableau that makes his own reign look weaker by comparison. Analysts argue that if he cannot reassert control soon, history may remember him less as a reforming monarch and more as a caretaker whose reign was undermined by scandal. As one commentator put it, "The king looks like a man clinging to the past, while William and Catherine look like the future. A monarch doubted, a queen absent, a sister defiant, a son and daughter-in-law rising." In the next part, we will examine the possible futures now facing the monarchy, whether Camilla returns to reclaim her place, whether Charles can salvage his reign, or whether history is preparing to crown William and Catherine sooner than anyone expected. As the dust settles on the Raymill scandal, one question dominates every headline, every broadcast, every whisper from palace corridors. What comes next? The monarchy faces three possible paths, each fraught with peril. The first is Camilla's return. If she chooses to come back, she must confront not only Princess Anne's accusations, but also the tidal wave of public distrust. Her reappearance would be a gamble, an attempt to reclaim authority in a climate where many believe she never belonged. Could she survive the jeers, the scrutiny, the comparisons to Diana that never fade? Analysts doubt it. One historian noted, "Her absence already looks like abdication. Returning would not erase that image." The second path is Charles's resilience. He could rally his advisors, demand loyalty from his family, and insist that Camilla remains queen, no matter the scandal. But such defiance would carry risks. Polls suggest the public may not tolerate it, and international observers are already questioning the monarchy's stability. For Charles, to fight for Camilla is to risk fighting against the people themselves. The third, and most explosive path, is a shift toward William and Catherine. Their composure throughout the crisis has made them the natural focal point of hope. They embody Diana's legacy and Elizabeth's stability. If Charles falters further, pressure could mount for an unprecedented transition, whether official or informal, placing the weight of monarchy in their hands sooner than anyone imagined. One palace insider put it bluntly, "The future belongs to William and Catherine. The only question is when the future arrives." This moment feels less like a scandal and more like a turning point. The heirloom at Raymill was more than an object. It was a symbol, a reminder of betrayal, of mistrust, of the fractures that have haunted the monarchy for decades. And now, those fractures threaten to split the crown itself, as Queen Camilla remains abroad, as King Charles struggles to steady his reign, and as Anne continues her defiant stand. The stage is set for a battle not just for titles, but for the very soul of the monarchy. Will Camilla return to fight for her crown? Will Charles restore his authority, or sink further under the weight of his choices? And will William and Catherine quietly become the monarchy's true center of gravity, turning crisis into opportunity? For now, one truth is undeniable. The crown is fragile, the family divided, and the eyes of the world are watching. Thank you for following this special report. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next chapter of Royal Revelations. Because this storm may have just begun, and the next twist in the monarchy's fate could arrive sooner than anyone expects.